女士们、先生们
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So, welcome to attend 2024 Beijing CBD Forum Dialogues on Sustainable Development in Regional Economic and Trade Cooperation. My name is Zhao Zhanjie, the director of CCG, and for the past several years, we have convened the CBD Beijing Forum successfully for 24 times. And this dialogue is one of the important parts of the CBD Forum, and which is also the only one forum focusing on the ASEAN sustainable development and dialogue on trade and economic development. And this forum is especially supported and organized by ASEAN-China Center, Chaoyang District People's Government of Beijing Municipality, organized by the Foreign Affairs Office of Chaoyang District People's Government of Beijing Municipality and Jianwai Sub-district Office, and the CCG and the CCB of Beijing branch. And the focus of this forum is on the sustainable development of ASEAN-China Regional Economic and Trade Cooperation, and we're very happy to invite the delegates from the different organizations, international institutions, and the representatives from ASEAN and China delegations, and the organizations and companies, and AIIB. So please allow me to introduce today's distinguished guest. We have His Excellency Mr. Parulian Silalahi, Deputy Chief of Mission of Embassy of Indonesia in China, Director of Integrated Coordination Department of China ASEAN Center, Mr. Sun Yi, Ms. Dai Jianjun, Deputy President of China Association for World Trade Organization Studies, Mr. Zhang Guanbing, Vice District Mayor of Chaoyang District, Mr. Huo Jianguo, Deputy President of China Society for WTO, Special Advisor to the Vice President AIIB, Ms. Supi, Economic Minister, Counselor of Embassy of Indonesia in China, Ms. Elizani, Minister Counselor for Economic Affairs of Embassy of Indonesia in China, Ms. Miao Lu, who is the General Secretary of CCG, and Mr. Ling Ling, the Director of the Foreign Affairs Office of Beijing Municipality, and Ms. Wang Xi, who is from the District Committee of Chaoyang, and Mr. Song Weijie from the same office. From CCB Beijing branch, Mr. Miao Zhen, Ms. Chen Jie from CCB, Ms. Wang Huo, Deputy Secretary General of China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation, and Mr. Luo Weijian, Luo Weiqin, President of Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in China, and Mr. Zhao Lei, Deputy General Manager of Data Way, and Mr. Zhong Feiteng, Research Fellow from CCG, Wu Mengqi, Mr. Shu Liquan from Hehe Group, from Ant Group, Mr. Zhou Bing, Mr. Han Guoding, Vice President of Corporate and Institutional Banking Department of Beijing branch of DBS Bank. We also have the members from the Foreign Affairs Office of Chaoyang District and the Administration Committee of Chaoyang District, and so on and so forth. So in order to further understand how to promote the practical cooperation, previously we also have convened the different events as well as the development guidelines and a manual for your reference, and you can take a look at some of the information of these organizations. And we hope that you can find your partner and a potential partner so that next year you can demonstrate the achievements of the cooperation. And at this event, we also have provide the QR code for the live stream of this event, and also you can download the photos of this event. And now we will move to the opening session. We'd like to invite Vice District Mayor of Chaoyang District Municipality. Your Excellency, Mr. Sun Yu, Director of the China ASEAN Center, and Mr. Huo Jianguo, Your Excellency, Deputy Chief of Mission of Indonesia Embassy in China, Mr. He Rulian, and esteemed Mr. Dai Jianjun, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests from ASEAN countries. Good afternoon. First of all, on behalf of Chaoyang District Municipality Government, I'd like to extend the warmest welcome and gratitude for coming to attend this meeting. And at this booming season, we are gathering together to attend the dialogue on sustainable development regional economic and trade cooperation of the 2024 CBD Forum to talk about the new challenges, opportunities of the cooperation in trade and economic development for the new era. Chaoyang District is the window of international exchanges, forefront of financial opening, as well as the carrier areas of international consumption center in the cities, and which also the landmark core area of global digital economic development. And for 5 consecutive years, Chaoyang District become #1 in terms of the economic development and growth. And we have boosted a lot of international resources. And in the city, we took the first initiative to initiate the 2.0 demonstration project featuring the globalization in terms of digital development and e-commerce. And we also have pushed forward 88 measures to promote the e-commerce and commercial development and digitalization in this region and district, so that we can be more open to welcome the business people and businesses to come to Chaoyang and invest in here. To look into the history, Chaoyang District is always dedicated on the promotion of the exchanges of trade and economic development between China and ASEAN countries. We are encouraging the incoming of the cooperation in terms of trade, investment, and sci-tech innovations. According to the statistics up to the end of April, altogether 5 plus 100 companies are invested in here. They are from ASEAN countries. And the cumulative volumes of the investment is $5.4 billion. So right now we are at the new historical point, and we are encouraging the new opportunities to be capitalized on. And we are going to exchange with the different cities in ASEAN countries with high standard international position in terms of finance, businesses, sci-tech services, so that we can withstand new challenges and develop all together. So let's join our hands together. I believe with our concerted efforts, the trade and economic development and cooperation between China and ASEAN countries can enjoy a bright future. So I'd like to wish this forum a great success. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhang. Next, I'd like to invite the Director of the Integrated Coordination Department of China ASEAN Center, Mr. Sun Yu, to deliver the speech.
Minister Perlian Silalahi of Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in China, Secretary General Dai Jianjun of Beijing People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries, Deputy District Mayor Zhang Guanbing of Chaoyang District of Beijing Municipality, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon. Today, it is my great honor to join new and old friends in Beijing to witness the opening of dialogue on sustainable development of regional economic and trade cooperation of the 2024 Beijing CBD Forum. Over the past 23 years of exploration and practice, the Beijing CBD Forum has evolved into an international high-level dialogue platform to showcase Beijing's achievements in opening up to the world, and has played a critical role in enhancing Beijing's influence and competitiveness. On this occasion, on behalf of His Excellency Secretary General Shi Zhongjun of the ASEAN-China Center, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the opening of this great forum. Over the past 30 years since the establishment of dialogue relations between China and ASEAN, both sides have developed into the most dynamic and productive partners for strategic and substantive cooperation. Sustainable development has always been a crucial area of cooperation between ASEAN and China. The leaders on both sides attach great importance to sustainable development cooperation and have designated the year 2021 and 2022 as ASEAN-China Sustainable Development Cooperation Year for 2 consecutive years. As economic globalization deepens, sustainable development has provided strong support for economic cooperation and trade between both sides. ASEAN and Chinese industries complement each other, driving mutual growth and seeking common development, and injecting a strong impetus into regional recovery in a post-pandemic era. Therefore, I would like to share some insights on sustainable development in ASEAN-China regional economic cooperation and trade in 3 aspects. First, economic integration has been increasingly deepened. ASEAN and China have been each other's largest trading partner for quite a few years, and have become the key source and destination of investment for each other. China has established bilateral investment agreements with ASEAN countries and signed production capacity cooperation agreements with Cambodia, Laos PDR, and Vietnam, and jointly constructed the Sihanoukville Special Economic Zone in Cambodia, Thai-China Rayon Industrial Estate, the China-Malaysia and China-Indonesia 2 countries twin parks projects, which have further strengthened industrial and supply chain linkages between China and ASEAN member states. Since the establishment of the ASEAN-China FTA, more than 90% of the commodities between both sides enjoy zero tariff arrangement, which has become a model of regional economic integration. The full entry into force of the RCEP and the ongoing ASEAN-China FTA 3.0 negotiations continue to propel economic cooperation and trade in our region, bringing forth significant trade and investment opportunities. Second, connectivity has been increasingly consolidated. ASEAN and China have forged a new logistics corridor on the Asian-Europe continent supported by direct rail and road transportation, laying the foundation for hard connectivity for deepening of ASEAN-China cooperation. The China-Laos Railway has successfully transformed the Laos PDR from a landlocked country into a land-linked country, providing a benchmark for cooperation under the framework of Belt and Road Initiative. With the opening of new rail and sea transportation corridor connecting inland China and the Indian Ocean via Myanmar, the commercial operation of Indonesia's Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail, and the consensus reached by China and Vietnam on enhancing cross-border standard gauge railway connectivity and construction, the regional connectivity is making strides forward with each passing year. These rapid developments propel the creation of Trans-Asian Railway Economic Circle, catalyzing economic growth not only in China, but also across ASEAN member states. Looking ahead, as more projects such as Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail, China-Laos Railway, China-Thailand Railway, China-Vietnam Railway, and Malaysia's East Coast Rail Link proceed with fruition, infrastructure connectivity will surely play a greater role in securing regional economic integration in a sustainable and mutually beneficial manner. Third, people-to-people exchanges have been increasingly enhanced. The comprehensive and practical cooperation between ASEAN and China are deeply rooted in geographic proximity, ethnic affinity, and cultural similarities, establishing a solid foundation of public support. The implementation of mutual visa exemption policies between China and some ASEAN countries, including Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, has significantly boosted the recovery of tourism industries. Moreover, China has established fast-track channels for personnel and green channels for commodities with Singapore, Laos, Myanmar, and Indonesia, which play a momentous role in ensuring the continued development of bilateral trade and economic links. So, ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, the friendly cooperative relations between ASEAN countries and Beijing, including Chaoyang District, continues to deepen with frequent exchanges in such fields as economy, trade, science and technology, agriculture, and information technology. Fruitful results have been achieved for the benefits of the peoples on both sides. Looking forward, both sides should focus on the development of new quality productive forces with an emphasis put on digital economy, green economy, strategic emerging industries, and future industries, strengthening cooperation in the field of technological innovation between ASEAN countries and Beijing, jointly build an open and innovative cooperation network, enhance the competitive advantages of regional industries, and create new motivators for economic cooperation and trade. So today I encourage all the attendees to fully leverage the platform that this wonderful dialogue provides, sharing insights and strategies in green and low carbon development, green and infrastructure development, and other related domains. The ACC will, as always, stay committed to continuing our role as a connecting bridge and a facilitating platform that actively supports, promotes, and participates in the cooperation and exchanges between ASEAN countries and Beijing in various fields, so as to further contribute to the advancement of comprehensive strategic partnership between China and ASEAN countries. Last but not least, may I once again, on behalf of the ACC, I wish the dialogue on sustainable development of regional economic and trade cooperation of the 2024 Beijing CBD Forum a complete success. Thank you.
Thank you for Mr. Sun's comprehensive remarks, especially the valuable 3 insights about sustainable development of economic cooperation. 接下来，我们邀请印度尼西亚共和国驻华大使馆公使裴。
Now I'd like to invite Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of Indonesia in China, Mr. Silalahi. Please, the floor is yours.
Mr. Zhang Guobin, Vice District Major, Chaoyang District, People's Government of Beijing Municipality. Mr. Sun Yi, Director of the Integrated Coordination Department of China ASEAN Center. And Mr. Huo Jianho from the Chinese Society WTO Studies. And distinguished speakers and participants, a very good afternoon. Allow me to convey our appreciation and congratulations for the CCG, our co-organizer, Chaoyang District, of course, and ASEAN-China Center for organizing this event. On behalf of Ambassador Johari Oratmangun, I'm honored to take part in this opening session. The theme of discussion today is pertinent on how trade and economic cooperation complement to sustainable development. Now, Indonesia, as Southeast Asia's largest economy, has exerted various efforts on sustainable development. As Indonesia continues to accelerate our economic growth, we have also identified at least 6 main strategies for our economic transformation. Those are namely through green and low carbon economy, increasing productivity, capital relocation, digital transformation, domestic economic integration, and the development of human resources. Now, moreover, while we continue to increase trade and attract foreign investments, we keep track of our commitments to reduce emissions, among others to increase the use of new and renewable energy up to 42% by 2030. Now, I believe that we also share this spirit with China. Our relation goes beyond trade partnership. We also share high interest on low carbon development. Now, various projects have been implemented through environmentally sustainable technologies. To name a few, first, the Cirata floating solar power plant as the first floating solar power plant in Indonesia and the largest in Southeast Asia. This 192 megawatt solar panel is a collaboration between Indonesia, the Emirates, and China. Now, second, on mineral processing, we appreciate China's support on Indonesia's downstreaming policy. It is our goal to become not only as nickel ore exporter, but also as battery manufacturer. Last year, in 2023, 37% of China's investment in Indonesia is for metal processing. Now, this investment increased local GDP to $3.6 billion US, or 6 times bigger than the neighboring provinces. Indonesia and China will work together to ensure all environmental and social guidelines are met. Now, third, our new capital, Nusantara, in Kalimantan Timur. We are aiming to have a green and smart city, which during the process we learned from many other cities in the world, including, of course, Shenzhen, and the Response City principle from Beijing and Zhengzhou. We appreciate the investments from China, as well as the involvement of their experts in this development of our new capital city, Nusantara. Now, Indonesia fully realizes that national achievement should not be based on economic indicators alone, but also on social and environment. Greater international cooperation is needed to achieve balance on these 3 aspects, and as through the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Indonesia is confident that its SDGs progress is on track. We ranked the 75th in the world based on SDGs Report 2023. 76% of SDGs indicators in Indonesia have been achieved and experience progress. Now, our cooperation with China is just an example of our efforts to mainstream these goals. At the regional level, ASEAN and China has discussed on green economy as part of the upgraded FTA. I see more interesting issues will be discussed in this forum with the presence of experts with various backgrounds. And from my embassy, my 2 colleagues, Ms. Nadia from the embassy and Ms. James Hartono, the president of Indonesia Chamber in China, INACHAM, will also share their thoughts on the 2 panel discussions. I wish this forum a great success and hope you can have fruitful discussions and bring back meaningful ideas to each our community. Thank you. 谢谢.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salalahi.
Which will be the important topic of our panel 1. So we are looking forward to discuss more about this topic later. 下面呢，我们进入主题。
And now let's move on to the keynote speeches, and we have the honor to have with us 2 senior experts who will share their insights with us. And please allow me to introduce the first speaker, Mr. Huo Jianguo, Deputy President of the China Society for World Trade Organization Studies. He used to work at the MOFCOM, and he has long engaged in economic studies, and he has also been involved in World Trade Organization negotiations and China's joining in the WTO. And he has also did a lot of research on RCEP. And please join me in a warm round of applause to welcome Mr. Huo Jianguo. Mr. Zhang Guanbing, Mr. Wang, Mr. Sun Yi, Mr. Selalahi, good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here at this dialogue. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say something about my studies just recently. I want to talk about two things. First, the international situation now, and second, the challenges facing economic development, and third, suggestions for improving China-ASEAN economic cooperation. Talking about the international environment, we say that the changes have never been seen over the past century, and now we say that they are deep-going and complicated. I think there are 4 trends we need to pay attention to in the international situation. We can discuss those 4 trends because it will help us to better know the international situation.
So first of all, the first conflict or the first highlight is that talking about the geopolitical issues and talking about the big power politics, actually 2 of them are intertwined with each other. And this intertwining actually lead to one conclusion. First of all, there will be the mentality dominating like, for example, the Cold War mentality is dominating the world, and right now we can see some polarization is on the rise. We do not agree with the Cold War mentality, and we do not support hegemony by the great power. But looking into the future around the globe, probably is there any possibility to see any changes in the future, or the future trajectories of this world actually will lead to some consequences that we do not want to see, but we can do nothing about. So against this midst of the situation, how can we correct our position so that we can take sort of advantages? And so we do not agree with the Cold War mentality. Of course, that is the correct thing to say. But when we are coming down to earth, the policy changes of any country, of any state, probably would have something to do with the Cold War mentality, one thing or the other. From the east to the west, or from the north to the south. So in China, we must say it very correctly and squarely that we do not agree with the confrontation between the Western camps and the Eastern camps, or the great powers confrontation. We don't need any mentality of Cold War. So some scholars in this arena, they are advocating to empower or strengthen the power of the Global South to be confronting more forcefully with the north of the globe. I don't think that is very sophisticated or any mature mentality whatsoever. And that is my personal understanding. And the second viewpoints, that is the anti-globalization and de-globalization. Actually, there is something intertwining between these two. The trade protectionism and de-risking actually right now has very close relations and links with the interests of the state. That is very dangerous signal. All of us are not agree with anti-globalization. We still think globalization is still roaming on, is still existing. And anti-globalization doesn't have any support from the globe. But we can see the regional camping, or the regional camping could be understood as part of globalization. But anti-globalization is on the rise, and we can see the major feature of the anti-globalization is led by United States, featuring de-risking, and that is supposed to de-risk with China or de-link with China. Be de-linking with China can de-risk. That is their mentality. And we can see the rise of sort of events and incidences are in line with this situation. So the trade and economic cooperation against this background has been highly challenged. and that is detrimental to the recovery of the global economy, like the Ukraine war, as well as the spiking interest rate of United States and the currency price spiking of the United States dollars and so on and so forth. So I think all of these issues would lead to the high wall building and the misunderstanding among the states right now. It is at the moment when we try our best to turn around the dark moment, when we see the recovery or slight recovery of the global economy. At this point of time, trade protectionism or the rise of the geopolitical tensions are not very good or positive to the recovery of the globe. The third one is that we mainly talk about the multilateral institutions, which is dominated by United Nations or the WTO. Yes, indeed. This sort of international institution has been shocked or so-called fragmented or damaged by United States, although the basic and fundamental rules are still there, but the momentum and also the major structure has been sort of damaged by the United States. And the WTO, the 13th ministerial meeting, is still moving forward reforms of WTO, and recent days talking about the politic organizations or institutions reform is still in debate and in discussion, but I don't think that lead to some positive results. And the major problem is that a lot of regional trade organizations, they have rules, they have developed their respective rules and regulations, and some of these regulations and rules are above the WTO. CPTPP is one of the cases, and also the North America Plus also among them. And this kind of rules, from the regional perspective, would boil down to one question: how to align and orchestrate the different organizations and rules based on the structures of WTO, and that is very important. The reform of WTO is lag behind, and the difficulties are very stringent and very serious. So to be frank, the CTP is a very high-end and representing the 21st centuries, and we are applying for the CTP. But the objective problem is that whether the world can adapt to this high-end structure of the rules and organizations. So the existing WTO rules, of course, there are some blank areas, for example, the e-commerce, the digital economy, and the industrial competition. And the subsidies of some industries need to be supplemented and debated about and improved through the negotiation discussions. But the correct positions by the different states is very important, because that would involve the future perspectives of the global development. And the fourth problem is that right now the international market is very fragile. It looks like very rosy, and we can see the spiking prices of the stock market of the United States, of other countries, but the frequent fluctuations of the capital market would be very confusing and would be very fragile. Because when we are looking at another important of the risk is the Federal Reserve's policies or monetary policies, and they are actually coming back and forth from deflation and inflation, or a rise of the interest rate and lowering the interest rate. So that is too much frequent, and we have to pay pretty much attention to this situation. About outside of the United States, any country have the power to regulate or manipulate the direction of the capital market and the monetary market in the world. And only the United States has this power to manipulate and to regulate or to control the direction of the capital market in the world. And these are the four major changes or difficulties that we are faced with. They are still in the process of changing, and we have to pay close attention to the trajectories of the trend. And I do not agree with some of the change, and I hope that we can actually capitalize on some positive energy to support the globalization in the future. And the second part of my presentation is that talking about the foreign-related trade, there are some problems involved with this issue. Four issues. The first one is that the export trade has been shocked and challenged by the external difficulties, especially from United States or North America and Europe. And we enjoying the growth of 2.7, and the United States is 2.2%. Yes, we maintain the growth rate or a positive figure, but in this figure, we can see the structure has been changed. Like the trade with ASEAN is on the rise, and we maintained a little bit flat number this year versus before, but still it is very, very strong momentum of the export trade with the ASEAN, but our trade or export trade with the EU and the United States is not very good. Means that the market in the United States is not shrinking, but on the way, and instead their market is increasing, but the market share of China is decreasing. That is being replaced by the export from Vietnam and India and the Latin America, for example, Mexico, and so on and so forth. And this kind of decrease of the export trade volume to United States and EU have said something that need us to pay attention to. And that is one of the biggest challenge to China in terms of export. And we have witnessed the process of reform and opening up in China, and we all know that the export-related economy has a lot of relation with the high growth of China's economy before. So, for example, we have enjoyed a high influx of FDI since we became the member of WTO. And we harvested a lot from this membership, from this trade. And at the highest point, that is 56%, but now it's only 20-something percent. That is half of the peaking number. Of course, China's national situation has been changed fundamentally versus years before, and we are climbing the high-end development or industries development. But we have to notice that the consumption expansion in China or domestically and the contracting of the external trade, there must be an alignment between one and the other, because otherwise we cannot maintain a very stable and a high-end or medium speed or high-speed development. And the second is about the high technology constraint, especially from the United States, and they have issued a lot of bans on China's imported products, as well as the technologies coming from them to us, and vice versa. So I think to us, in the short run, there's no big negative influence on us. At the highest end, we are not the biggest consumer of that, and most of China's population are not consumers of the high-end products. But it's fair to say that this kind of banning and constraining and coercion from the United States on China's high-end technology development would actually lead to the future stress. And the stress in the future will be exacerbated by multiple times and accelerated momentum in the future. It takes time to mitigate this kind of coercion. And we would ask one question: would you like to rely on yourself, become self-sufficient 100%, or you still have to open your door? And if you close the door, how long can you sustain? So we have to emphasize that the self-sufficiency doesn't mean that we will not open our door. It still means that we open our door, but at the same time, we rely on ourselves. And the technology upgrades is also very important. And the pipelines getting in touch with the outside world is very important. So right now, we can see that the supply chain has been somehow hampered. Used to be dominated by the MNCs and featuring the division of labor, division of the different industries, but 88% of the supply chain are in the hands of MNCs. To China, it's a very simple question. We don't have to worry about the changes of the supply chain. We actually have to serve the MNCs, and the business environment has to be nurtured to stabilize the operation of the MNCs in China. And that is the first utmost important step to stabilize the investment from outside into China. And the second highlight is the changes of the international relations. The changes of the international relations we have to pay high attention to as well. Especially during the 20th CPC Congress, there is one line in report to develop the diversified international relations. And that is a very important line because underlining annotation of this one is that we would not be too much aggressive or to make troubles in the international affairs or relations, but we have to stabilize our internal affairs first, and then we can be friendly and also be cooperative with international relations. But now we can see some changes between China bilaterally with some individual countries, and the changes also worrisome. Of course, we have to try our best to make a change. At least we have to maintain the current status quo, and instead, otherwise it will become the negative power to us.
This is how I see the international situation. I have pointed out some issues. In these areas, we are facing challenges, and we need to address the challenges seriously. And then I would like to come to some suggestions. On this theme, I think China needs to work hard to enhance its cooperation with ASEAN across the board. That is a necessary choice of ours. And it should be an objective conclusion based on experiences and research. So we need to improve our cooperation with ASEAN comprehensively. And in particular, we need to address the trade imbalance between the two sides. But I think a trade imbalance is something that will not be sustainable. So we need to maintain a basic balance of trade. That should be the correct approach in developing world trade. If we just pursue too much trade surplus, then it will be counterproductive because it will bring other challenges to yourself. So that is the first thing, trade imbalances. Second, we needed to step up the development of trading services, especially in the negotiations on the upgraded FTA. We need to focus on trading services. China needs that, and ASEAN needs that. The two sides both need to open trade in services wider. That will help us to achieve deeper integration. To be objective, if we want to do something in China's trade in services with the U.S. and the EU, probably it would be difficult. However, with ASEAN, in terms of logistics, distribution, or e-commerce and manufacturing-related services, we have the good foundations to proceed from. For example, culture, public support, etc. So it will also serve ASEAN's development, but of course that requires increased Chinese investment. One more thing is that we need to shift our mentality about trade. China is strong in manufacturing. China is #1 in manufacturing. No country can compete with China in manufacturing. It is highly efficient. It is low cost. We will also upgrade our manufacturing. That is reality. But we must pay attention to reciprocity of trade or mutual benefit of trade. That is to say, in terms of investment, we need to pursue win-win and mutual benefit. We should not just focus on our own capital, on our own development. We need to attract more local investment. We need to have a more joint venture, joint investment. Actually, we can take the saved money and put it in other areas for investment. Otherwise, it will never work. Actually, that is also the way that the foreign investors, when they make investment in China, deal with the Chinese investment. If we do not shift this mentality, it will never work. Now everybody is very clear. We need to develop the investment and trade with Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and then we will build a strong new energy industry, and then the world will recognize China. But we will pay a huge price for that. So my idea is that when we expand into ASEAN, Asia, Africa, and Latin America, we need to shift our mentality. We need to pursue win-win and mutual benefit so that everybody will be comfortable. And we should not just pursue our own interests. Otherwise, we will pay a price. So that is another point. One more thing is to get prepared for market risks. Just a few years ago, the media asked me that China has become a major auto exporter. But I said that you should not publicize that too much because probably there will be some problems later. You know, already last year, European countries or the United States were talking about it already. And last year already it grew to 19%. And this year is more challenging. So we need to think about more seriously. New energy industry itself should also be prepared for such risks by making some self-adjustment. For example, when you establish some marketing outlets, you know, our marketing outlets are not enough. Our current companies are strong in manufacturing low-price, high-quality products in China. However, we are not good at market operation or customer fostering. So we need to build more capacities or new capacities for participating in the international economy. Otherwise, we will face more challenges. So that is all. Thank you very much. I know I have spoken beyond my time limits. I think you have made a wonderful speech. I don't want to interrupt you. So in summary, I think he gave us valuable suggestions for China-ASEAN cooperation. It's about open cooperation for win-win results. I think that is the most important thing. Thank you very much for sharing. And now the second speaker, special advisor to the Vice President from AIIB, Madam Supi. She came from Thailand. She graduated from a Japanese university, and she joined the AIIB in 2016. She also managed the effective utilization of investment operations resources in line with the mission and vision of AIIB. And she is very busy, and she was traveling a lot. But anyway, she is with us today, and she makes it. So we want to thank her for joining us today. So now I'd like to give the floor to Madam Supi Taravaningthorn. Please.
Thank you very much. And can you put up the slide? First of all, I have to express my appreciation for the invitation. I feel that it's an honor for me to be here with you today. And especially I have to say that when I'm sitting and listening to Dr. Huo Jianguo's speech, I have to say that if I did not produce a slide last night, people will think that I'm copying. Because I think that I might be even speaking about the same, it will be the same, the different side of the same coin. Because Dr. Huo Jianguo is talking more on China, how to deal with the world fluctuation right now. I'm going to talk about how the China dealing with the world fluctuation affect the ASEAN. Can I have my slide up, please? How to get the slide up on the screen? Yeah, already. Okay, thank you. So my focus of the discussion will be on China-ASEAN dialogue. I focus on that. The first that I want to talk about, and I think everybody know about that ASEAN as a combined economy is ranked number 3 in the world, and then ranked number 6 in terms of GDP of the world. So ASEAN is not a small market or a small production center for anybody. Also, in terms of ASEAN, is a high potential region, which the return for investment is among the most attractive. Because you have the 680 million population, as I said, that in terms of population is number 3 of the world. You have the US, India, you have China, India, and then you have ASEAN. Before you go to the US, that is 300-some million population, right? So this is a big, and this is a young market. It is also, you have eco-diversity. The diversity of Indonesia and the diversity of Vietnam will be very different. It's very different from other parts. You have the oil production, you have the non-oil production, you have the area that produce a lot of mineral. So you have the eco-diversity in this 10 countries. It is also a high potential of production base. It is also high rate of urbanization. And why high rate of urbanization is important? Everybody know that middle class, middle income people is the one that have purchasing power. So for the society, it's not high, it's not high end, it's not low end, it's the middle, we call the middle part. The middle section and urbanized population of the middle class is the one that will give you all the purchasing power, and that is proved economically. Which is also, and I think in terms of ASEAN, we give an investment a favorable policy, and then I think that we could talk about a favorable policy in terms of the what Chairman Xi talked about, the Santa Kwai or whatever, that talk about the EV battery, all those kind of advanced technology thing. But my part is the blue thing that I want to say that geopolitical, the why ASEAN is important, and that goes back to what Dr. Huo Jianping talked about. Because of the ripple of China, US, and others, is lead into become the geopolitical issue of the world, now lead into making ASEAN become even more important for China. I would like to say that the political tension may trigger a wave of trade realignment and supply chain restructuring in favor of ASEAN. You can look into, and this is also, when I was listening to Dr. Huo, I was thinking about my slide that I tried to produce, and this is just to prove his word. You know, you look at the tariff. You look at the US tariff that put onto China, electric vehicle is go from 25% to 100%. Something that is semiconductor, 25% to 50%. I mean, all these numbers you know more than I do. Everybody in China know all these numbers, but I just try to collect it for you to see that the list of all this high-tech industry and the tariff of the US is getting heavier and heavier. And the year of implementation, right? You can see that some of them give you a holiday of a few years, but then you'll be implemented next year or the year after. The question from the ASEAN, Now, question from the ASEAN is that how much could ASEAN benefit from this kind of import substitution opportunity? There will be an opportunity to ASEAN that the US may, and that happened already to EV. I'm going to tell you, and a solar cell. The US already banned solar cell from China. And what happened? The solar cell, right, 70% of the solar module import to the US, 70% of them come from 4 countries in ASEAN. That is Thailand, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Vietnam. These are the 4 countries that produce the Chinese invest China solar module in order to export to the US, and 70% of the export. And that is becoming our problem now too, because once the tax holiday or once that kind of thing, there is a date. It's not forever. That the US give you a tax holiday is not forever. So when the US wake up to say that these 4 countries are just the extended arm of China to produce, to export to the US, they are going to also clamp down on that. So what shall we do about that? This is go back to what Dr. Huo talked about. You have to focus on a few things, and this is also one of them. So my question from ASEAN, Dr. Huo look it from Chinese economy and China point of view. I look it from ASEAN point of view. From ASEAN, how much in this kind of scenario of trade war between the 2 big elephants? You know, we have a say in Thailand, right? When the 2 big elephants fight, all the small guys around will have to be careful about where they're going to situate themselves, and that is a situation how we can benefit or how we can disadvantage from that. In case of ASEAN, you may know that those who work with ASEAN may know that there is an AEC. And AEC is ASEAN Economics Community. That AEC was established in 2015. And the focus of the AEC is trying to make, the achieved goal is that try to make this regional distribution that we want to be complementarity to each other. We don't want to be competitive to each other. But the speed of AEC implementation, is it enough? Is it adequately capture the opportunity that is coming to us from the trade war? I want to also look into this trade flow between China with ASEAN, China with the US, and China with the EU. And this also come back to prove Dr. Huo's discussion. Almost like I provide all my slides in order to substantiate his discussion. Because you can see that the far left is the ASEAN-China trade. This is 2009 to 2022. The curve is going up, significantly up. The China to the US is proof to what he said. Is very stable, relatively stable, but 2023 is actually reducing, and reducing in both import and export. So does it mean something? Right? So that is go back to his speech. Then China with the EU trade, also very stable, a little bit ripple at the last 2 years. So these are something that we would like to, catch the attention of the researcher and those academia. I would like not to, but one thing I would like to say that is beyond what Dr. Huo talked about. Dr. Huo talked a lot about trade, but I want to focus on investment. For us, when you look at all these pictures, and I like what he said on concluding is, I try to put it down in Chinese, is it called what? 互利共赢的发展模式. Yes, and I think that is important. It's important because you look into the trade pattern of China. No matter with ASEAN, with the US, with the EU, you are making a trade surplus with everyone. You are trade surplus with everybody. How can you sustain that? How can you tell people not to go against you, right? So you have to find a point that you can make it a win-win, can make it a 互利共赢. Otherwise, it cannot sustain. How can everybody be your trade partner and be deficit every year, right? So you have to find some modality that you can make it to balance. But a trade is one thing. I try to balance it with investment. For us, we know that we have a deep trade deficit with China, but how we can balance it with investment, and that is something that I will also mention a little bit. Here, foreign direct investment flow to ASEAN. I want to put the new dimension of my talk about foreign direct investment to ASEAN. Actually, ASEAN has been a good place for foreign direct investment with Japan, with the US, with EU, with China, and all those, right? So here we would like to say that manufacturing sector involved in energy, and I don't want to talk about the old style. China already moved fast into 新知生产力, right? You add, but when I get the translation, I don't understand new productivity. What is new productivity? I usually use to advanced manufacturing. Is a term that usually used more generic in the international. 新知生产力 is too much of the direct translation that when you go out, they may not understand you. Huh? So I don't want the investment that is only conventional and old style. I would like from you the 新知生产, or it is the advanced manufacturing. That is what ASEAN wants. And I want to say that, and ASEAN offer the space for that also, for the energy transition, for the digital economy, and international, some other high-end technology, right? So, and we can see that electronic and electrical industry remain a major recipient of the investment manufacturing in ASEAN. If China doesn't want to do it, you have other people, and we want to do it. And I will show the slide, the next slide, to show that, to provoke you in coming to us a little bit more. Huh? So ASEAN is already have the, in 2022, account for more than 70% of the announced greenfield manufacturing investment, and that is 37 billion. So that is not a small money, right? In electronic industry, production of semiconductor and electronic component received the most attention from investors, and that account for 27% of the announced greenfield. So I think the last 2 points is the one that I want to emphasize. That one is generic, nothing much. But the last 2 points is what I want to emphasize. That is about half of the US dollar 15 billion from China, FDI. China invests in ASEAN about 15 billion, I think last year, was in manufacturing and real estate. Real estate, we may not need much. But Chinese companies remain active in infrastructure projects. The EV-related activity, meaning the EV itself and the battery, EV battery, digital, and all those. We were the largest investor in the Chinese make the largest in Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. But there's also some trouble coming. Now, ASEAN is more interested in the advanced manufacturing. I mean, my term is advanced manufacturing or 新知生产, and less on the conventional type of manufacturing. I don't want shoemaking. I don't want garment. You can send it to somewhere else, because we want the high-end technology also. Now, I look into ASEAN. I mean, that one is narrative. But in terms of figure, you can see that ASEAN FDI inflow has increased from, this is the number figure from 2012 to 2022 in billions of dollars. The ASEAN FDI by industry also, the second graph is the, and we have a lot in manufacturing, we do financial, we do all those. But then the next slide will be more interesting, is about the country. China, in terms of investing to ASEAN, is ranked number 4. Number 4. After the US, then ASEAN among ourselves that we invest within intra-ASEAN, that's number 2. Then Japan is still a big investor in ASEAN. Number 4 is China. But then come back to the point that is interesting, and we need to look a little bit more. China invests in ASEAN in 2021 is more than China invests in ASEAN in 2022. Why? This is something we need to ask ourselves. We ASEAN need to ask ourselves also. Why are we not attractive enough for China to increase the investment? But anyway, this is just a 1-year data. So may not be significant. We need to look into it in the longer term. So, and of course, for ASEAN member, FDI come in, the biggest is Singapore. So too sad for me that I'm from Thailand and my number is really not too good. Huh? So now I would like to focus on the investment that I said that we would like to get from China, the high-end technology, and that we look into the EV, the electric vehicle. Thailand currently is already the hub, the production hub for the world in terms of conventional vehicle, or what we call internal combustion engine, ICE. ICE vis-a-vis EV, like EV, electric vehicle, and the old style is internal combustion engine, that is the ICE. So Thailand is really very big in terms of ICE so far. Now we have to convert ICE into EV. In terms of EV, this number is from ONTAC. ASEAN international investment in EV related, and this is EV related, meaning not just the EV car itself, but also EV battery, which is important. EV car, important is a battery, right? So you can see that 2021 and 2022 is jumped 6 times. It's jumped almost 600%. So this is pointing to something that if I use Dr. Huo's word, is that this is worth to 重视. It's a point that 应该重视的点. I learned a lot from him. I have to say thank you very much, Dr. Huo. So here we would like to say that here I'm speaking from one of the ASEAN citizens. I would like to promote our area as a place where not only to do trade with us, but to bring investment to us in order to balance out what you gain from the trade surplus and heavy trade surplus. So capturing the rising up, but I have to also say that to be fair, I'm not saying that everything China need to do this, that, and those. ASEAN need to do this, that, and those as well. And ASEAN have a long list that we need to do, right? In order to capture the rising opportunity provided by all these dynamics of the world competition, they need a lot of infrastructure. We ASEAN need a lot of infrastructure, and this one, if we are not equipped ourselves to get it done, then we will lose the opportunity. China investment may go elsewhere, and that we cannot complain. So for ASEAN economy, the total infrastructure investment needed is estimated to be at least 2.8 trillion from 2023 to 2030. And this is where can we mobilize. So this is something that ASEAN have to ask ourselves where to mobilize. Is it from public investment? Is it from private investment? How can we make that kind of basic infrastructure that is needed into there? And infrastructure doesn't mean hardcore road and rail and all those. Even social infrastructure, meaning education. Because if we don't equip our people to be able to take the EV technology and IEC and ICE technology are totally different. So these are the questions for the ASEAN policymaker themselves. Good governance is another thing. Are we good enough to have the good governance that people want to invest? So these are. I have another slide that actually, if I have time to go further, I was also thinking and smiling when Dr. Huo talked about his part of globalization or non-globalization or reverse globalization even, right? So bridging the infrastructure gap, I talk about 4 hindrance, but the last one that is Dr. Huo talked about is the last one that I talk about mental gap. To talk about bridging infrastructure gap, we have physical gap, that is physical investment, and this one, it will be not too difficult. Legal gap is mean cross-border, because a lot of things in ASEAN, that's complex set of issues for ourselves. I look at Indonesia, I look at all those. The issue of legal gap is big for ASEAN. You know, when we want to negotiate among ASEAN is ourselves not to have visa. among 10 countries in ASEAN, we take 10 years. 10 years, and this is legal thing, right? And other than that, if you want to have a power pool, you purchase power between Thailand, Laos to Vietnam and Cambodia. This power pool connectivity, which is basic infrastructure too, because power infrastructure is needed, is absolutely needed when you want to invite foreign investment in EV, in high-end technology, in digital. You need to have all this connectivity. So the power pool among ASEAN had legal gap also. How can you transmit power from Thailand to Laos or Laos to Vietnam? All those kind of things we need. So, but this one is ASEAN among ourselves need to work it out. Financial gap is, you see the big number of 28 billion, 280 billion or something that is needed. So how are we going to fill the financial gap? But we can. The part that it is very difficult is the mental gap, most difficult to overcome. I did not really produce a slide on that because I think that I want to focus on China ASEAN, but I can't help not touch upon that because the globalization or the reverse globalization, and the worst is regionalization that become protectionism. I produced a slide, but I didn't put it here, is that right now we talk a lot about regionalization because you have ASEAN that is a regionalization. When you go to, RCEP is also regionalization. You talk about CPTPP, that is another. And when you go to Europe, you have EU, you have a smaller part. And you go to Africa, you have EAC, you have ECOWAS, you have SADC, these are all. But regionalization, should it be done? Yes. But should you turn regionalization to be protectionism? No. But the world nowadays turning regionalization into protectionism. And then you only do it among yourself, and then meaning that your market limitation. And go back to, again, Dr. Hua talked about globalization and reverse globalization. So I think that I will end my slide with the last one to say that to ASEAN policymaker, and we have a few here, we will need to get all our infrastructure and human resources ready to capture the new opportunity that come from the dynamics of the world competition now. But to Chinese friend, investor, and trade partner, I would like to say ASEAN offer a win-win proposition and have to go to Hu Li Gong Ying,
win-win cooperation and development model.
That model, the Hu Li Gong Ying, is something that please, for the Chinese investor and trader, please, there is no place in the world that can sustain deficit for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and not fight back. So find somewhere that you can balance, right? And I would like to also say that given the current geopolitical situation, you will need ASEAN as much as we need you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for very, with data, with insights. I think you emphasize Hu Li Gong Ying, which in English is win-win cooperation, right? 那我们在进入今天的这个研讨环节之前呢，我想邀请
Before we go, distinguished guests, officials, panelists, good afternoon. I'm Wu Mengqi, CCG Research Fellow. We will come to the first panel, Urban Practice of Green Development and Friendly City Exchange and Cooperation. We have the honor to have with us 4 panelists. I will not introduce them in detail, and when I invite them to speak, I will say something about them briefly. And the first one, Mr. Dai Jianjun, Secretary General, Secondary Council of Beijing People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries. Mr. Dai joined the United Nations Human Rights Council meeting and COP28 and 29, these meetings. In low carbon development and green development, Mr. Dai has a lot of expertise. So my question for you is this. So you are from the Beijing People's Association for Friendship with the Foreign Countries. Do you have any experiences to share with us from Beijing on this topic? Distinguished guests, Mr. Moderator, good afternoon. I'm pleased to join you in this dialogue. When I got this invitation from the CCG and other organizers and hosts, I know that this dialogue is highly relevant. You know that in recent years, Beijing has been working hard to promote low-carbon development and green development, and it has also worked hard on addressing climate change. First and foremost, it has a good master plan. We can look at the municipal 14th five-year plan and the 13th Party Congress of Beijing. They all made very important plans, especially the good policy system, 1+N, and the policy system for green development, and also dedicated plan, for example, for a garden city or for carbon reduction and emissions reduction. They are all very specific and comprehensive. In transportation and construction industries, they pay a lot of attention to emissions reduction and carbon reduction. So green development has been incorporated into all sectors of society. All sectors are working hard for transformation. And this new development concept is an area where Beijing has made a lot of achievement to promote high-quality development. I think you can feel that in your real life. For example, PM 2.5, it's below 30 micrograms per cubic meters. And the carbon intensity has been going down year by year, in recent years by over 3%. And the water quality is getting better and better. And so far as I know, the dynamic control has been put in place. For example, the accountability system and the bad quality water has been all removed, and much improvement has been made in soil quality and water quality. So it is really a good working process. And the forest coverage in Beijing reached 45%. And in urban areas, the green land coverage can be as much as 54% or 49.8%. And in per capita terms, it's about 7 square meters for each person in terms of green land area. So this is much progress. And so air, water, soil, and forestry. Actually, Beijing is really ranking top among all provinces and municipalities. So it has been very successful. In 2022, Beijing hosted the Beijing Olympic Games. And that is actually the first carbon-neutral Olympics in history. A lot of new technologies were adopted and applied during the Olympic Games. For example, the ice stadium used clean energy, which is recyclable with zero emission, and the torch, the relay torch, used hydrogen as its energy. It's very clean. That helped us to reduce the consumption of resources And we have also achieved AI operations in many areas. So while reducing carbon and emissions, we can achieve a very good performance of operations. So in Beijing in recent years, Beijing has really made a lot of achievements. Of course, on the one hand, the Chinese government really gave strong support to Beijing's effort to build a better city. And on the other hand, our achievement cannot be possible without international cooperation. We have introduced a lot of advanced international expertise, including those from ASEAN and Indonesia, for example. And through such mutual learning, Beijing has been able to make such great progress in reducing carbon and lowering emissions. Probably what I know about Beijing's experience is limited. And of course, we know that the relevant organizations and talents have all made their contributions to Beijing's achievement. Thank you, Mr. Dai. From my own perspective, my own feeling is that in recent years, Beijing has bluer skies and clearer water. I live along the Tonghui River. In winter, actually, I once counted over 100 wild ducks on the river, and they remained there for several months until they moved to the south. So that is a good example of green development in Beijing, which is very successful. Beijing is a very important city, and the Minister Councillor also said that Indonesia is building a new capital. It's in the remote island of Kalimantan.
From this construction of a new capital for Indonesia, because you are such a populated country, and now you are investing heavily in a remote area for a new capital, how could you bring green designs and green issues, green ideologies into this construction of this new capital? And on the other hand, how can we learn from the construction from this new capital? How can we learn the green experience from your construction? And I would like to have Ms. Nadia to answer this question. And first, let me make a brief introduction for yourself, okay? Ms. Nadia is currently assigned as the Minister Councillor Coordinator for Economic Affairs at the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Beijing. And she worked for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. 2008, so you are a senior diplomat and you have a lot of experience in connecting with China and ASEAN and Indian countries. Can you give you some insights for my question, please?
Thank you, moderator. Of course, I'm very happy to be able to join today's panel. And then I think our panel today is indeed very relevant as we discuss issues that relevant to all of us. We all are working, living, and spending most of our times in cities. We all live in cities. And I can testify to what Mr. Dai said previously. I've been quite lucky to see the transformations of Beijing. I live in Beijing back in 2016 to 2019, and then I returned last year. I see a lot of progress. I can testify to the blue air as well. We can see a lot of blue air now in Beijing. So I'm very happy to see how cities can transform themselves to make it a more livable city. And I think this is also the important point when we talk about urban practice for green developments. Maybe my other panelists can talk more about the technicalities of green designs and green urban issues. But for me, I think when we talk about urban practice, we can see it as a collective actions, a collaborative actions in which we as a citizens try to make changes, to make things much more better, to change things for the better, not for the worse, of course. And this is also what we are trying to do in our, our endeavor for the new capital in Nusantara. So this project, I think my DCM is already mentioned that for this new capital, our aim is actually to build a green and smarter city. And actually we start from scratch. We build it from zero. And then the main reasons for our new capital is, of course, we move from Jakarta to Nusantara is, of course, is related to our effort to spread a more even developments between the islands and provinces in Indonesia. And of course, it will also, we try to reduce the current burden of our current capital, Jakarta. And on the issues of green design, I think the capital Nusantara is actually being built with the concept of harmony with the natures. And I'm not saying this as just a slogan, because in the implementations of the designs and the constructions of the city, there are a target that being put by the government, like that we have to have around 75% of the green areas in the Nusantara government area, so 75% has to be green. And then, of course, there's a target of 100% access for all the citizens, that they can go to green and open spaces within 10 minutes. And then we also promoting 100% eco-friendly constructions for every building. And then this new capital is also being built with green and easy active connectivity and a target for low carbon emissions. We will use 80% usage of public transportations, and then 100% installations of renewable energy, and then 60% energy conservations for building, and we aim for net zero emissions by 2045. You may say that this target is quite ambitious, but of course, we believe with the strong commitment of the Indonesian government, and as well as the support from international community, international stakeholders, including with cooperation from China, we are sure, we are confident that this can be achieved. And then the issues of cooperations with China in the new capital is already being raised at our high-level bilateral talk. So now the question is, how can we implement these cooperations between China and Indonesia in the new capital? So I think we can learn a lot from Beijing, sharing experience and the knowledge practice. Like I noticed that Beijing has already moved some of their, how do you say, in Tongchao and New Xiong'an. So this is also what we can learn as well. So that's, thank you.
Okay, great. So yeah, Beijing is trying to remove some of its capacities for populations and the productions to Tongzhou and Xiong'an new area. So it is a great topic. We can discuss this topic later. So I'm turning to Chinese now because I'm going to ask Wang Huo.
Okay, Ms. Wang Huo. Ms. Wang Huo is the Deputy Secretary General of China Biodiversity Conservation and Green United Nations Association and a guest professor at Tianjin Foreign Studies University. And yes, you have a lot of titles in the portfolio, so I don't need to elaborate too much on your portfolio. And you have been participating to a lot of international conventions, international cooperation events, and rulemaking in the international community. So cooperation between China and the world, you actually have advised a lot, and you have participated into the coordination work as well. So I have a very, very macro perspective question to you. So how to look at the relation of the green development and biodiversity? Is that a must, or the positive correlation the green development will lead to the biodiversity improvement? Thank you for the question. When we are talking about the green development, first of all, we have to define what is green. In most of the cases, when we are asking the question, probably the first thing in your mind is the forest, or the grassland, or the regiment of the trees, or the beautiful blue skies and transparent water. It doesn't necessarily so, because I can give you some contra measures in this way. In terms of the selection of the trees, if you don't care about the biodiversity, probably they will be very problematic. For example, in the spring in Beijing, we will be suffering from a lot of flying particulates, as well as some of these foggy things from the trees, and that is due to the mistakes based on the selection of the species of the trees in the beginning. So when there is some diseases, which is invasive diseases from outside, and this kind of disease will lead to the total or complete damage to the whole field of the forest in just 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 weeks. So the biodiversity is just like the bank as assurance of the species for the different wildlife. So the biodiversity protection is the precondition for green development. That is why President Xi Jinping of China made the statement in UN-GM in 2022 in COP15, saying that we have to protect the environment by biodiversity, and that is the precondition. And talking about the EV cars on the road, we probably will think it is very green, but we have to think about it even further. Like the multiple metals combination in the deep sea can tackle the problems of the supply of the energies on shore. Yes, it can provide the clean energies, but we also have to consider the protection of the biodiversity in the deep sea. That is why the Maritime Protection Association, on the platform of this association, a lot of talks are debating on this issue. So the mining in the deep sea possibly will lead to the damages on the habitats of the wildlife in the deep sea. And so when we are measuring the green development, we will not only look at the apparent metrics, we also have to look at the prices that we have to pay for these mining products. So that is why our leadership always advocate on the biodiversity of the different species of life, including humanity. And we have to develop the systematic biodiversity. Yeah, thank you very much. And talking about China and ASEAN, both of them are having very abundant biodiversity. So we have a lot of methods of the biodiversity protection. And its relation with green protection or green development, probably that lead to the different thoughts in the process of the green development. So next, I'd like to invite Mr. Xing Lei. Mr. Xing Lei is the Director General of the World Green Design Organization, Chairman of Beijing Dragon Design Foundation, and with the public fair and branding as a means. And Mr. Xing Lei has been committed to promoting innovation and green development. So previously, we were visiting Cambodia. In the city of Cambodia, actually, there's no vehicles on the road at all. So I was asking you back then, in terms of the urban development, what kind of drivers should we generate to push the green development in the cities like this? And how to introduce the local features and traditions in providing the mentalities and concepts of green development. So is my question clear enough? Yes, this is a question which is very big. As a promoter for the green design or an organization promoting green design, we have the micro perspective method and a macro perspective method for green development, talking about the transmission from the traditional car to the EV. Probably there will be the solutions by the new energies, and at a certain point of time, the green features will be maintained. When it comes to the hydrogen-dominated area, probably there will be new solutions which is more greener than the EVs. So it is trajectories going forward. As for the green development trajectories of the cities, actually also involve the different stages of the development. Probably right now in certain ASEAN countries, some solutions is too high for them, because there's too much investment into the sort of infrastructure, probably not suitable for them. So we have to select the solutions suitable for them. Like we can use some track or the trains transport or transit a real transportation model for them instead of the EV on the road. And so probably at a certain point of time, the autonomous driving mode will be encouraged in the future. So we should select the right solution or right method at the right stage, and to look at it in a holistic and systematic way, and to do the research based on this kind of periodic value. And we can see as a researcher that some Western countries in EU, the infrastructure structures in these EU advanced countries have been laid in advance years before, many years before. So they have a forecasting perspective before they design their infrastructure outlets. And right now they still maintain the very high-end functions of this infrastructure. But for some countries, for us, for example, like 20 to 30 years ago in some cities, when it is in the beginning of the reform and opening up stage, when we designed, we didn't forecast that the transportation could be so worse right now. And this kind of preemptive perspective is not enough in the beginning. And we have experienced so much, and we have accumulated so many lessons, and accumulated in different stages of the development, and combined with the experimental results from EU, probably to ASEAN countries in the future, they can just copy and paste. They can just join upon these lessons and experiences. And there are a lot of stories and cases for them to learn and avoid. And they actually can draw upon these good stories and bad stories, successes and failures for their references. And when they start their first step, probably they don't have to make so much troubles like some countries. And they can develop their respective solutions, which is greener, based on the green design, which is successful before. Thank you. And also our ambassador previously also have mentioned that there are a lot of cooperation between Indonesia and a lot of Chinese cities like Beijing and Shenzhen. So I try to understand Mr. Dai, Secretary General Dai. Under the BRI, we have 10 partners. So based on this BRI framework, when China is cooperating with international cities, I want to know what are the names of these cities that we are cooperating with, respectively. And it's fair to say that, and I'm engaged with the organization for friendly affairs with international countries, and yes, I've been engaged with 2 NGOs, and yes, we have done some work right now. And the association at the city level, there are 190 plus members, and we have 124 members of the civil friendly organization for the promotion of the friendship with international friends. Yes, now we also have attracted some of the civil groups for green development and net zero transition and energy development for green purposes or the high-end technologies.
We have been doing a lot of work based on the resources we have. For example, with over 200 organizations from 70 countries, we have established partnerships. And with our internal and external resources, we are promoting Beijing's municipal efforts for low-carbon development, emissions reduction, ecological conservation, and green development. That also includes partnerships with ASEAN countries. Our organization has an Asian Affairs Department who are working a lot with the ASEAN countries, including with Indonesia. The Zhongguancun Forum is an event that has a sub-forum on energy, and it attracts a lot of participation from international organizations and experts. And we also have the academicians from CES and the Chinese Academy of Engineering too, and also Canadian academician was also invited to speak there. And I still remember that they launched some great outcomes. For example, a supercritical unit technology and also power technology related to emissions reduction in Yanqing, and also a smart construction plan for the state grid. That is what I can remember. So they are all private enterprises, but they have launched wonderful scientific and technological results. That has contributed a lot to Beijing's efforts for emissions reduction and green development. Yes, you know, we are a special advisor to ECOSOC of the United Nations. We have also been very active internationally. For example, we give briefing to the world about Beijing's plans for green development and China's plans for carbon reduction, etc. We have been making our voices heard internationally too. And we are also introducing other countries' experiences. And we are an observer to the United Nations framework for climate change. And I attended COP28 in Dubai last year in this capacity. So we have been enhancing cooperation with a lot of international partners. Domestically, you know, Beijing has a non-governmental organization for economic promotion, and we are also working together with similar organizations to launch some events. For example, every year we have the tree planting activity in Beijing, which attracts over 200 to 300 diplomats in Beijing and also overseas students in Beijing. These events are very successful, and every year we hold this event in Changping. And we have also organized some students for the culture season for low carbon development. And we have also the children's educational campaigns, voluntary campaigns to raise awareness about low carbon development. We have also held some dialogues with experts. For example, last year with New Zealand, we had the carbon neutral and city development dialogue, and also we talk about the opportunities of carbon neutrality and carbon peaking strategies for enterprises. And we worked together in our dialogue with New Zealand because New Zealand has a lot of experiences. So we want to use these events to attract high-end experiences so that we can build bridges for two-way sharing. And that is a kind of shared effort for common progress. It is also in line with the concept of the building of a shared future for mankind, or the idea of building a clean and beautiful world as proposed by President Xi Jinping. And going forward, we will continue to do these good things, and we know that social organizations will play more and more important roles in the future. So I think we need to make good use of our advantages and in line with the national strategy and also the international aspiration for green development. We will do more to contribute to climate change solutions and to carbon reduction and emissions reduction. We will do more to run public campaigns. For example, we have a global drawing imitation competition. We've been running it for 4 years, and every year we attract participants from over 60 or 70 countries, as many as 40 to 50,000 drawings, and we also take it to the United Nations as a gift. And in 1 year, we selected 3,000 drawings as gift to the foreign athletes who are here for the Olympic Games. They were very popular. So anyway, domestically and internationally, we have a lot to do, and we will continue to do it. And whether it is non-governmental organizations or governmental departments, I think we can work together to achieve our goal. Thank you very much for your good work, and you have really made a lot of contributions as a platform for technology exchange, people-to-people exchanges, and international cooperation as a way to contribute to Beijing.
From your point of view, what kind of experience and expertise that you can share with your ASEAN counterparts and as well as China's counterpart in terms of green development and green designs? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for the question. So I think when we talk about green developments, cooperations between ASEAN and China, previously I think Director Sun Yee already mentioned a lot that I think that in terms of commitments and then how do you say, the priority is there. I think ASEAN and China already, back in 2021, they already issued a joint statement for enhancing green and sustainable development cooperation. They also have developed, how do you say, a plan of actions. They also have a environmental center together. So all these mechanism modalities are there, and how we can pursue it into a concrete matters, you know, into a concrete form of cooperations. This is the questions that we can develop further. And then, of course, in terms of friendly cities cooperations, I think it is also an important factor that ASEAN and China also can utilize, you know, how we can push forward the cooperations between cities in terms of green practice, because in the end, the green practice is going to be enjoyed by the citizens of the city. So how we can push forward through the friendly cities cooperations, because usually the friendly cities cooperations are more into cultural, sports, and then those sort of issues. So in the future, how can we move it forward, you know, to have exchanges, sharing between like Beijing and Jakarta on how we can develop good air, you know, so things like that.
I think Beijing and Jakarta are far away from each other, and geopolitical and climate conditions are different with each other, so it would be very creative.
But we can learn from each other, and then I've noticed, I read before just recently that Beijing and Jakarta already started their cooperation back in 1992. So it's a long time, but I think we can do much better than just friendly cities cooperations, and we move to more important issues of green practices between the two cities. I think that's where we can start.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I never know that the two cities have already begun their cooperation since 1992. Yeah, that is really great, because we are such a huge population living in these two cities, more than 30 million, I think. 30 million people. So it's huge opportunities for us to develop. 下面我想问一下王慧。
And now I'd like to come to Madam Wang Huo. When we come to the topic of China-ASEAN cooperation on green development and green city development, how can we improve biodiversity in our cooperation? How can we cooperate with each other to do that? Thank you very much for your question about how to improve biodiversity in city. I think first we need to start with protecting the existing biodiversity, the wildlife. We know that nature knows no borders. Just a few years ago, the United Nations adopted a resolution about nature knows no boundaries. We know that a lot of wild animals in their migration will pass a lot of countries. For example, dugong and some other wild species, they can cross many countries. And ASEAN is also the same. from Australia to Asia. That is one of the top 9 migration routes for a lot of birds. So we can see some birds in China. We can also see them in ASEAN countries. Sandpiper is this kind of bird. It can fly from Russia all the way to Australia. So such co-protection should be connected. So if we do a good job in protecting it in one place, but you do not do a good job in other places, then your efforts will be useless. So we need global cooperation, regional cooperation to protect the ecosystem. I can also give you another example. We know that in Beijing, we are building a city of biodiversity. I have a story. You know, Beijing sweeps. It is a kind of bird. In Summer Palace and in Beihai, we can see those birds. They are flying to the south, but we don't know exactly where they are going. So in 2014, my organization, we launched a science project. It is about the research on the migration route of this bird in Beijing. But you know the conditions were limited, so we are mobilizing the so-called citizen scientists, and they catch those birds and install the locators in their bodies to track the routes of these birds. And through our research, we have realized that they go to the south as far as South Africa. So, you know, China's forest is really very important to these birds, we have realized. So this big science project is very helpful for us to know better about biodiversity. And second, we can learn from each other between China and ASEAN countries. For example, Jakarta, you have observed over 408 types of birds. And in Beijing, we have recorded I don't know the latest number. It's about 500 types of birds. So we are both rich in biodiversity. So birds are a symbol of biodiversity. If you have good ecology, you have good flowers, you have good birds, and it will attract a lot of tourists, and it will help us, our economy. And you know, tourists love watching birds, and they can bring a lot of tourist revenues. And in Singapore, they have a city biodiversity indicator, something like that, starting from 2008. The Convention on Biodiversity had this mechanism. In 2021, they already issued the Singapore's Urban Biodiversity Indicator. And in China, in many cities, they are learning from their practice of this indicator. This is a good cooperation.
About the question how city enhance biodiversity, what does it mean by 提升?
To get more species or so. 我觉得呢，首先我
So first of all, most important thing is that we have to respect the biodiversity locally and protect the local biodiversity. The number of the species is supposed to be as much as possible. Doesn't necessarily so. Like the species from outside in European countries, especially Belgium, they are very actually suffering from this kind of invasive raccoon. And actually, after the some of the leather industry introduced into Germany, so they developed a lot of species like raccoon, and then this kind of invasive species like raccoon, the white raccoon, are always hungry and they are always starving, so they are eating all the time and they are damaging the environment actually. So the number of the species don't necessarily to be as much as possible. So we have to use this nature-based solution. And another important thing is that to wind the city means that the city has to invest a lot in the biodiversity finance to build the green city, but that's supposed to be nature-based solution. Like the wild grass or the weeds, they are very native. and they're very adapted to the species of the past locally or the bio situation of the local environment. If we eradicate all of the weeds and plant something that beautiful or a whole regiment of the same species, I don't think that is a correct thing to do. And now we have to make arrangement of that. So for the city, biodiversity protection is very important, and we have to honor the local biodiversity first. So we don't have to enhance or necessarily enhance the biodiversity. We have to protect biodiversity. Thank you very much for interpretation, especially ASEAN countries. They have a lot of species locally. They are not suffering from lack of number of the species. So in the coastal areas, a lot of cities are actually claiming the land or the continents from the sea, but that would lead to the damages of the species of the woods, mangroves, and so on and so forth. And that's supposed to be a buffer when the hurricane came. So biodiversity protection is practical, both financially and in terms of security. Thank you very much for your explanation. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Xing, because you've been involved in the green design for many years, especially when it comes to the cooperation with the EU countries. So is there any innovative things that we can develop for the bilateral relations? Every year, we can see a lot of competition and awards granting internationally. And the ASEAN countries, as well as the European countries, they would apply for these awards or competition. In terms of the agriculture structure, there is one award winner that is about agriculture technology for the paddy rice, together with the shrimps in the same field. So that is kind of hybridization of the agriculture development, and then the paddy rice field can be actually developed for the fishing field for the shrimps raising. And that is a combination of the two solutions, a nature-based solution, and a very economical as well. So the combined or hybrid farming, they don't need any fertilizer, they don't need any pesticide, and the nature provides the solution because they have their solution already. We don't have to develop some extra solution for them. And the output per unit of the field also very high. And right now in China, we have 20 million mu of farming land. So this kind of high technology is practiced in about 8 million mu. And per mu output is actually 3,000. So altogether, that is 200 billion yuan of value. So if it is needed by European countries, or if it is up to their regulations or allowed by their regulator, then I think this kind of cooperation is very good. And there is another award winner. It is a furniture vendor from Norway. And the cost of the furniture is very low, like 1,000 per square meter. And the assembly and also the modulation speed is very high. And all of them are modulated, so the structures are highly modulated. The welding and lining are also done very quickly, and the standard has been met by this kind of assembly method. And I believe as long as it can up to China standard, which is stringent enough, that can be also up to the standard of the United States and the European Union. And when we're adopting this method, I believe the optimization of the furnitures and modification of the infrastructure can be enhanced. So all of this award competition and this kind of events are very encouraging, like the nanometer technologies developed by us can basically kill all of the E. coli in the water. These kind of technologies the cost of the materials are very low compared to the traditional understanding about the nanotechnologies. Actually, the delta is not very big, only slightly higher than the traditional technologies. So when the running water's quality is rather low, in order to supply the water, especially the outdoor water supply for the drinking water purposes, probably this kind of technology could be adopted. The new technologies and new materials could be adopted. They're all green and their cost is not very high. I believe this kind of design can independently provide the solutions which is subject to the need of the ASEAN countries, and it can be put into programs, and also it can be introduced by some group of experts and to be tested in some pilot and then scaled up. Recently, we were discussing with Malaysia the scrapped tires of the vehicles actually could be processed by the high technologies without discharging any wastes. And the pulverized tires or the tire powders after scrambling actually could be reutilized. And the quality of these tire powders are also environmentally friendly and eco-friendly. And we believe that this kind of recyclization of the materials out of end of the life products can be deemed as a very good way. So these are the technologies which have won the awards, one sort of another. And we have to collect this kind of green technologies and scale them up. So the green design is not a literal meaning. It's just a beautiful thing or beautiful concept. It is green or look very beautiful, but it can provide the solutions to tackle the systematic problems. So not only a single technology shall be adopted, it should be a combined portfolio of the technologies. And what we have to highlight is the forward-looking. We must design in advance. We have to foresee the possibility of the discharge of any hazards. So before it is discharged, we can design some solutions in advance. And previously, talking about ASEAN countries, yes, that they can join upon the experiences and lessons from EU and from China, because there are a lot of zigs and zags which has been experienced by these countries. So they don't have to take the zigs and zags whatsoever, and they can just jump to the end, and they can save a lot of energies and money, and these are the very valuable expertise and experiences so that they can accelerate this the way of development. Thank you very much for sharing, which are very excellent, exciting cases. So one case is very impressive. That is the hybrid farming with the pad rice and the shrimps. So I think in Mekong River, we can see the suffering from the flooding is very serious. So, and their pad rice is very high, and for us, our pad rice is relatively short. So they probably can. It is suitable for them because their pad rice is very high, and this high pad rice can be coexisting with the shrimps in the water. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I'd like to say this must be the end of this panel. We have received a lot of information, and some of the information is yet to be shared due to time is very limited. So probably after the meeting, feel free to contact with each other. Thank you, Ms. Nadia, and many thanks to all of you, Mr. Xing. So we come. All right. Thank you very much for your introduction. So we move to the second panel. The second panel discussion. Yes, like the previous panel, an introduction by our organizer. It is in line with the advantages of Chaoyang District. And in the beginning, the Mr. Sun also has mentioned that China's service industry have been leading the country. And we have CIFTIS, which is one of the most high-end event for service industry or trading services. And that is very encouraging and very meaningful. And the format of today's panel, and there are two panels. or the two parts of the panel. After introduction of our panelists, probably I will invite the panelists to give a keynote speech to demonstrate their businesses in ASEAN countries. And based on their content of the presentation, probably we can raise some questions to have a sort of interaction with each other. And today, these four panelists, they are coming from the diverse background. And the first one is both a business person, also a chairman of organization, a president of Indonesia Chamber of Commerce in China, or INACHAM. And he is not only an entrepreneur in medical services, and he is also an investor in a lot of Chinese cities. So he is very familiar to Chinese businesses. And the second one is also one of the top-level banking player, which is the general manager of the International Department of China Construction Bank, CCB. And he is not only one of the top 10 young workers or employees of CCB, he is also the winner of the medal of May 1st, which is a great contribution to the industry. And also Mr. Calvin Wee, co-founder of the Young Seekers, and he is engaged with an NGO dedicated on the development of the career for the youngsters. And he is also very excellent, and he had won excellent young person at 2 different times, and he is also the only one winner as a Singaporean. And he was studying Tsinghua University, one of the top-notch universities in Asia. I believe this kind of youngsters communication will push forward the ASEAN countries' relation with China. The fourth panelist is the Deputy General Manager of Data Wei, Mr. Zhao Lei, and he is engaged in big data, which is the buzzword recently. And has been alluded to by previous speakers, in terms of the AI, China has become the leading in the leading position. So as per schedule, we'd like to invite the first, Mr. James Hatono. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Zhong Feiteng. I'm very happy to attend today's panel in this forum together with all of you. How can we create a common development in the future? I'd like to identify myself. My Chinese name is He Zhengfa. And my name was given by my grandfather. And I was born in Indonesia as a Chinese. And actually, my motherland province is Guangxi province. So I'm actually a Chinese person overseas. And I've grown up in Indonesia and studied in Malaysia.
I studied also in the United States, and I came back home and involved in my family business. And starting from 2000, my wife and I moved to Shanghai to start a business. So I've been in China for 24 years, and I have personally seen the development achievements of China. My business covers medical care, video. We are an agent of Fusuchi Film. But actually, they have changed their business now. However, we are still focused on video in the business of films. You know, we just reinvented what we had in the past 20 or 30 years in terms of films. So now the new users are the young people, Gen Z people, Generation Z. Over the past 20 years or 30 years, the Generation Z has never seen that kind of film. It is completely new to them, actually. I'm also doing extra body diagnosis. I am the biggest agent in China. Our customers are 3A hospitals, and we provide our equipment to those hospitals. I'm also the chair of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce in China. It was established 9 years ago, and we have about 200 members. So they are all Indonesian investors in China. And we also have some Chinese friends who are making investment in Indonesia. They are also our members. My family business is also active in Indonesia, but I am developing my business in China now. Thank you. That is all about myself. So you've been in China for 24 years. Actually, the past 20 years is exactly the period when China has been rapidly integrated into globalization, and especially the FTA with the ASEAN is upgraded to 3.0, and that will not be achieved through the support of the services sectors. So now I'd like to turn the floor to our panelist from CCB, the Construction Bank of China, China Construction Bank. I'm very pleased to be here. Actually, I have a lot of personal association with the CBD, and upon the invitation, we received a Malaysian delegation to our bank, designated by the CBD, and actually our partners are very interested in the CBD, and they expressed their intention to make investment here. And actually, the CCB was established in 1954, so this year marks its 70th anniversary, so it is internationally famous. I am doing international business. I started with the foreign exchange transaction. I still remember here in Chaoyang, we have a hall for foreign exchange transaction, providing services to the people. At that time, we could provide services for 30 foreign exchanges, and now we can cover Indonesian currencies, Malaysian currencies, over 30 currencies. So that is part of the better opening to the world and to ASEAN. The CCB is active in corporate businesses, personal businesses, commercial bank businesses, investment bank businesses, overseas businesses, domestic businesses, local currency businesses, and foreign exchange currency businesses. We are really taking the lead. So we hope that we can also work together with the overseas partners and companies and businesses for win-win cooperation. Thank you. I have been doing a lot of research on Southeast Asia. Our trade with ASEAN is over 900 billion. In these years, it is a little bit declining, but it's still above 900 million. But if we can do more to increase the share of RMB in our trade settlement, I think that will bring ASEAN even closer to Beijing. And now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Huan Jingying. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to share with you. The young seekers is something new. I am also an overseas student. When I study here in China, some Chinese friends do not know more about the Southeast Asian countries. So that is why we established this organization as a platform for young people exchanges, especially for the ASEAN young people. And we have presence in each and every member of the ASEAN. We cooperate with the ASEAN University Association, the ASEAN Youngsters Council, etc. We hope that through such cultural and people-to-people exchanges, the young people will know more about their own country's advantages. And after graduation, they will have a better awareness or intention to go out of their own country and cooperate with the partners in the region. We want to build a reservoir of talent. We want to serve the talents who are coming from ASEAN to China. And we want to help attract such talents and help those people to better develop in China. And now we have actually been working with over 1,000 talents in ASEAN from over 40 organizations, including enterprises or young people's organizations or the government organization. Now we are working together with the Singapore Government Youngsters Council and Singapore's Economic Development Bureau so that the Singaporean young people will have more advantages to engage in better cooperation between Singapore and China. Thank you for highlighting the important role of young people in China-ASEAN cooperation. And during President Xi's state visit to San Francisco last November, he also said that the young people should be given an even more important role in promoting state-to-state exchanges. And our panelist from AIIB also said that ASEAN has a combined population of 670 million, number 3 in the world. And probably in 30 years, it will exceed, in 3 to 4 years, it will exceed 700 million. And also, it has a big Muslim community, so it is a dynamic community. So whenever we visit a foreign country, we will always be impressed by the dynamics in a certain country. That will always give us a vivid memory. I want to say that to improve cooperation with ASEAN is very crucial for China's internationalization effort. And Beijing's economic structure is quite similar to that of developed countries. The tertiary industry in Beijing takes a share of 80%. And the OECD's level is about 78%. So Beijing's economic structure is a little bit different from the average structure of China. So I think going forward, we will rely on the strengths of our young people. And also, like the capitals of ASEAN countries, they have young talents, and that is also the case in Beijing, although we are also worried about aging in Beijing. So we need to rely on the new industries to better leverage the strengths of the young people. So I'd like to move on to the next panelist. Thank you, Professor Zhong. And I also want to thank the host for the invitation today. I'm very pleased to share with you my ideas. I'm from Dataway. So we provide commercial services to companies. You know, I am a representative of the business service sector. Starting from 2015, we followed closely the economic cooperation between China and BRI countries. In 2016, the BRI Office of the Central Government and the NDRC call us one of the top think tanks in China on BRI. So on BRI research, we have our advantages, and my understanding is that our advantage lies in digitalization or data. In the past, probably we use field studies to do research, but for us, we depend on data. At the beginning of 2015 or the end of 2014, we established a research system covering business information, consumers' information, how they see our cooperation with the BRI countries, the political information, for example, legal information, compliance information, and exchange and cooperation, and last one, public opinion information, for example, media, think tanks, universities, elites, their views about the cooperation. So through this four-pillar research system, we can provide fast services to our customers. We serve three groups of customers. First, those who want to make investment in the BRI countries. The enterprises, for example, we help them to better understand the local conditions and environment and the local industries, and we provide market research services and sector research services to them. And second, we also provide data consulting services to the ASEAN enterprises in China. And at the same time, we provide public goods to society. For example, with the Chinese Association of Commerce and Industry, we have been working with them for 10 years about the Chinese enterprises database, and we have an 18-dimension indicator. So those Chinese investors in other countries will face these 18 risks when making investment overseas, and under them they have 168 subcategories of risks, and this will help them to make decisions. So based on that, we have established a investment risk digital map, and it is running very well. This is one of the public good we provide, and we also help the ASEAN enterprises to better cooperate with the Chinese enterprises. So we also provide data services to the Chinese and ASEAN enterprises, how the ASEAN consumers see the Chinese products and how the ASEAN people see the Chinese enterprises in terms of employment and tourism, and we provide data support to them.
We have brought with us the periodic achievements we just combined in this manual. They actually have done a lot of survey and investigation about China and China's businesses and their viewpoints about the data, as well as the stories behind the data, and also the methods and technology to support the current achievements by Chinese businesses. And all of this has been summarized in this manual. And we have a lot of friends in here. We hope that more communication can be done between each other. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhao. Through your introduction, we can see a very enriched and a diversified area of cooperation for between China and ASEAN. The ASEAN countries' impression about China's products. I personally actually are very interested in this topic. And after the introduction made by these four panelists, and based on my understanding, I'd like to raise some questions. And the first question will be addressed to Mr. Miao. Talking about the Construction Bank of China, and we believe that a lot of providence have been reserved in this bank, and I believe my bank account of the providence also reserved in this bank. So probably can introduce for us the 10 countries of ASEAN. What is the current businesses that you are operating in ASEAN 10 countries, and what kind of services you're providing to these countries in ASEAN? Thank you very much for your question. Yes, you have introduced that the CCB, and in abbreviation, our bank is CCB. It's a very internationally renowned bank, and we are listed in Hong Kong Stock Exchange. which is the area and platform that international businesses can understand the CCB, and our international businesses starting from 1989, and now we are operating in 31 countries and more than 200 branches and subsidiaries. And in ASEAN, in Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, we have branches established over these 4 countries. And there are 2 tiers of the topic. The first one is financial services. Second is non-financial services. Talking about the financial services, we have the traditional settlement and the credit services and so on and so forth. And for the 10 countries in ASEAN countries, we've been engaged with them for so many years. We are collaborating with them. There are more than 100 billion USDs balancing the settlement, and now we are promoting the cross-border RMB settlement. And actually, we have in advance designed the structure. In 2014, we developed the cross-ASEAN countries settlement in RMB businesses, and now the balance is about 2 trillion RMB. With going global of Chinese businesses in Malaysia, Vietnam, the major infrastructure programs have been financed by us through these reserves. That is from the financial service perspective, and the second is the financial service. And among the peers, we are #1 bank promoting B2B matchmaking platform. We call it as the CCB matchmaking structure. The businesses in this platform can issue their demands bilingually, information needed by the different stakeholders, and the CCB can actually matchmake precisely based on the digital technology. And through this platform, we have organized more than 320 online communication events, providing services to more than 22,000 businesses and companies. And there are 40+ events of the communication in ASEAN. In 2022, there is a season of consumption in Beijing. And on that event, we have a time-honored brand. That is Yuezhenzhai, Wang Zhihe. These are the very famous brands, time-honored in China. And online, they signed agreement of communication and cooperation with ASEAN brands. And these are the going global by Chinese time-honored brands. Through this online platform, we receive new customers and we receive new clients and also new orders, highly acknowledged by the ASEAN countries and companies. And also, a lot of people say that the credit shall be given to CCB. And also, we are deploying the arrangement locally. We network with the local bank in ASEAN through this matchmaking platform. That is, in fact, of the clustering, for us to explore the new scenarios of the cross-border RMB settlement, providing better services to the businesses, benefiting the regional trade and economic cooperation. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Miao. And today's topic is regional economic and trade cooperation. And the previous speaker has mentioned new productivity. So the high-quality development of finance is an important pillar of the new productivity. You have alluded to that previously CCB have deployed the new businesses in comparison to the traditional businesses. So the scope and the depth of the service provision has been actually developed further. So Mr. He and Mr. James Hartono, the services provided by CCB, would you think this kind of services can finish or help you to finish your business? What kind of expectation do you have on the banking player like CCB in ASEAN countries, and what kind of extra services you need from them? CCB as one of the 4 big banks in China, So far, they are mainly servicing the big corporates or organizations or institutions. As for the SMEs, if they try to start any businesses with the big bank like CCB, it is quite challenging. So that is my concern. All right. Yes, in the Central Economic Work Conference, one topic is inclusive finance. One of the three major strategies of CCB is inclusive finance to service SMEs, especially tackle the problems of difficulty in financing for these SMEs. In recent years, people are thinking this issue differently, and we can see a lot of transformation. In this year, there's a new launch program, that is the export loans. So we would look at the figures calculated by the customs. The ceiling is 2 million that can be loaned or extended as a loan to the SMEs as long as their performance of export is good based on the figure from the customs. So I think the SMEs that we service them are also very good. Yeah, this is the program. And we serve both the big clients and the big, small enterprises. Yes, this is very good news. Good to know that. When we are surveying in ASEAN countries, the question raised by James is very universal and very common. It is not only aiming CCB. So ASEAN countries, actually, a lot of companies, their size is very small. And especially along the BRI programs, we can see a lot of programs are super big, like the infrastructure programs. And we provide the services to the finance purposes for the BRI countries and companies shall also be more inclusive. And President Xi, in the previous conference, also mentioned that we must develop the programs both benefit the big ones and the small ones. To serve the small programs, probably the ASEAN countries and companies would have a high expectation on CCB. Yes, Mr. James, you have been engaged in the business in China for 24 years. China is a very big country. In terms of the new services, what kind of potential can be explored further? In these 24 years in China, every year I learn something new. The speed of China's development is something I've been always talking with my friends internationally as one of the fastest countries, and especially in the recent 10 years. No other single country can be compared to China in terms of the speed. And the second message I'd like to share with you, a new concept that in the recent 10 years, when China experienced high speed of the development and growth, I believe a lot of Chinese companies in this process also learned a lot of experiences and lessons. So we must change our way of thinking, and we must shift from the traditional ones to the new ones. We would never expect such a high growth rate that is unrealistic. That is why in the past few years, challenges are roaming around. But I must say that when Chinese companies went to the other countries, they also take away the same expectation, a high speed of the development and growth. But I must tell them the demand and supply curve already being saturated when you jump in, and you would not kill all of them. Take all the turfs away. And if you kill them, then kill them today. You don't want to wait for another day. So in this process, with this mentality in overseas, probably they have experienced the very frequent shifting of the staff, and they always change their manpower in order to meet the expectation. And that would mean the instability of the business development of these companies. So as an entrepreneur, be the big company's leader or the small ones, you must change your mind. You must bear in mind that the stable development curve is more important than anything else. Now, for Chinese entrepreneurs, if you want to develop overseas, especially in ASEAN, the opportunities are super big. And I'm from Indonesia, so I have to do some commercial about my country in recent 10 years. And under the leadership of the President Zucker, the relations with China is at the highest end. And the collaboration and cooperation as the closest point. And this country has the fourth biggest number of the population, with the biggest population of Muslims. About 85% of the population is Muslims. And Muslims in Indonesia are very moderate and very mild. They are very kind and very nice, friendly, but of course, they are not that fast when they're doing something. So when China's business landed in this land, you must adapt to, and also you have to submerge into this society and this community and adapt to these habits. Of course, we welcome Chinese businesses. Both the private company players or the governmental business players, we all welcome all of them. So far, we have seen a lot of Chinese businesses and companies doing very well in Indonesia. So in the near future, the potential of the development and room for the development is very big. And I'd like to extend my invitation to all of you just to come and see how the market is, and you can partner with the Indonesia friends. And welcome to Indonesia. Thank you, Mr. James Hotono. I fully agree with you on the potential of Indonesia. And according to the forecast of international organizations, probably in the next 20 years, Indonesia will become the fourth biggest economy, which would also in line with the population size of Indonesia. So if you go to Jakarta, the vitality of the city is very high, and the population, the permanent residents plus the migrant workers, that would be 17 million, and a lot of them are young people. So the city is full of vitality. And something very interesting mentioned by Mr. James Hotono, in the past 20 years, something has been missing, but we have to generate new momentum. So Mr. Huang, Calvin Wee, so about the ASEAN youngsters, you know them very well. So could you please explain to us the young people in China and in ASEAN? So what is the difference of the perspectives from Chinese youngsters versus ASEAN's? Yes, I've been visiting a lot of countries in ASEAN, and excluding Myanmar. But my biggest impression about these countries, Singapore is also one of the biggest economy in this region. Many of these countries have a very high sense of starvation, and they are always hungry about opportunities, especially the young people. Probably Chinese people, young people would pursuing the studies or the opportunities overseas.
If you do not live in the capital of the ASEANs, they would be eager to live in the capital. They want to experience life in the capital cities. So I told them that actually you can look outside. You don't have to focus on our own capital city. You can look at other countries. And probably they do not see their full possibilities because you are just living in your own country. You don't know what is happening outside. Probably your parents or your friends are just giving you a lot of constraints, making you think that that is what I will be doing throughout my life. Actually, it's not. And there is another trend. There are many foreign students who are studying in China. Actually, the biggest source of such students is ASEAN. So I remember the Malaysian students in Tsinghua takes the biggest share of all foreign students, surpassing Japan and the ROK. And the second largest group of overseas students at Tsinghua is Indonesia. So a lot of ASEAN students know that China is very important, and at an early age, they learn Chinese. They want to study in China. They want to stay here and work here and develop a career here. I ask a lot of ASEAN friends about their career prospect in China, and they believe that it will be better than it is in their own country, and they can earn more than they can in their own country. So we are thinking about how to help those young people from ASEAN who want to stay in Beijing, in China, and help them to transition from university to a career. And we want to help them to find jobs and stay here. And we hope that they will have opportunities to stay here, to engage in development for the coming decade even. Thank you for sharing. I think that is a great idea. We are researchers, and in the past few years, we have realized that whether it is about BRI or the China-ASEAN cooperation, every year China always provides a lot of scholarships to the overseas students who are coming to China. Compared with the mature countries like the United States and the European countries, actually there is a lot of room for improvement. You know, when you get the scholarship from the educational departments, will they stay in China and immediately go back to their own countries, or will they stay here for 1 or 2 years and then they will bring both knowledge and practice back to their own countries? And probably the second will be the better option. Probably the researchers have not realized the full dynamics of the ASEAN young people, and I have learned that the young people in ASEAN love the esports. Some people say that it is the soft power of China. I think that is a good trend among the young people. So I think Chaoyang can keep a lot of young people from other countries. And in addition to that, how can the young people play a better role as a platform for cooperation? You know, during the COVID-19, Xiaohongshu is another thing that has become very popular in addition to TikTok. And Xiaohongshu is very popular in Southeast Asia. And even these young people in ASEAN countries don't know they come from China. Actually, its application scenario is much bigger than what we can think. It has gone beyond the borders. It has crossed the language barriers and cultural barriers, and they can work together to do some short videos. Actually, a lot of the young people do not know their industries. Probably we can use these new platforms of new media so that they will do a better job to introduce more Chinese cities and Chinese provinces to the young people there. And then they will be able to know better about the cultural differences, and they will have better cooperation in the future. I think what you mentioned is very valuable. I have a personal experience or personal perception. A few years ago, I worked at the Foreign Office of Sichuan Foreign Affairs Office in Chengdu, and we provide an online app for the foreign investors, and it is an integrated app. They just use this app to accomplish all the services they want in China. I think this model can be duplicated to other parts of China. And at last year's Central Economic Work meeting, it was also proposed that we need to provide more convenient services to the foreign investors and foreign persons in China. Actually, this year we have seen that there are more and more good policies to attract the foreigners to China so that they can consume here. And for example, they can just scan the code for better services. So this is really developing very fast. For example, we can provide data-driven services. And in that sense, Mr. Zhao's company needed to make huge adjustment to your businesses in order to adapt to the new trend to better meet the need of Beijing. So can you give us some examples about how your company has been working to provide services to the enterprises in ASEAN? Yes, thank you. Today we are also talking about the new quality productive forces. I think it cannot be possible with digitalization. And we are also talking about business cooperation and opening. And it also depends on digitalization. That is what we have been doing. That is data analytics. We know that the first panel is about green development. The second panel actually also concerns digital development. I think that is a new direction for cooperation between China and ASEAN, because we believe we have gone beyond the traditional areas like manufacturing, for example, selling the mechanical equipment or apparel to ASEAN countries. And now many ASEAN countries are doing such jobs for China. But what will be the future points of growth of cooperation? I think digitalization is a good point of cooperation, and that will provide a very important channel for the ASEAN investors to come into China. For example, a coffee brand in Thailand and ice cream brand in Malaysia, they are doing a good job in their own jobs, but they are not as influential as some international brands. For example, in Beijing, the young people know more about the American brands, but they do not know more about Ethiopian brands or many other countries' brands. So when they come to China, they need to think about where should my shops be located. For example, of course, it's easy. Beijing and Shanghai will be the top options. However, Beijing is huge. Probably I can only establish 4 or 6 outlets in Beijing to begin with, but where should be they? And now we just use AI to guide the location selection. For example, we have 6 districts in Beijing. It's huge, and we have the 3-kilometer radius as the benchmark. And we know the coffee drinking habits of all those office workers in this area. Where will they go for coffee? What kind of brand of coffee they would take, and what types of coffee would they are they preferring? So we get all this data. It's easy for us to get the data supported by e-commerce and population data. So it seems that Beijing is huge, it is populous. However, it's really a good choice for a coffee brand. So with our services, we provide 6 choices for them, and then we make a further analysis to them. And then it all comes down to 2 choices. And then we ask them whether you want us to narrow further down. They say that, no, we want to select these 2 places. So after 3 years of work, and we have realized that not only in site selection or interior decoration to fit into the consumer demand of the citizens in Beijing, and also all the follow-up efforts, and we have realized that Our services has ensured that Beijing has become their fastest growing places of their businesses. So that is the data-driven services. And second, integrated data. So the foreign companies come to China, they face different kinds of challenges. For example, in financing, in IP protection, in taxation, in compliance, environmental standards or talents, etc. They face all kinds of challenges. I don't think any commercial or business service provider can say that they can provide a whole packaged service solution to all those investors. But we know that we need something like an integrated service provider. For example, when you come to Beijing, you need an IP service, and our company can provide a good list of those providers so that you can select one from it. And we can also provide the list of the tax service providers. So we have this advantage of integrated business services. We have the good business environment and we have the good service system in Beijing. However, it also means that it is very fragmented horizontally and vertically. For example, a law firm is specializing in just one area. So my company can use digital ways to tell you which provider fits you best. So I think digital services and integrated services are our major services to the ASEAN investors. And also for Chinese enterprises, we can provide the de-risking services. For example, we have the 168 indicators in the risk map to guide them. And also we will follow their products in ASEAN countries, not just the traditional manufacturing products, but also in TV, film, and broadcasting, etc. Now a lot of TV programs and movies are coming into ASEAN countries, and also a lot of Chinese apps that are being very popular in ASEAN countries. So we can get the viewing rate, and we can see the popularity of Chinese films or series, TV series in Vietnam, and it is upgraded much more faster than it is in China.
Probably in ASEAN countries and organizations in China, organizations in ASEAN countries, we can think about how to come up with the solutions that is adaptive to both ends, and when it comes to the amusement industry, and of course when it comes to the people-to-people communication, we also have to look into the future potential, and we as well have looking at some industries which are very popular to the youngsters, both in ASEAN countries and China, like Zhen Huan Zhuan, which is about the emperor's lives. And the wives of the empress, and these wives are actually competing with each other in this program, and why it is so popular among the youngsters. And I believe we can provide some associated services with this content services altogether and push them in an integrated manner to the ASEAN countries as a culture service providers. Probably this is some solutions that they're looking for, and we can provide the solutions to them based on their demand. Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Zhao, you actually have uplifted the end of today's discussion, talking about the service industry in China. This is a very important topic because in Beijing last year, GDP is more than 4 trillion. We are number 24th biggest economies if it is denominated in USD. And in Beijing, there are a broad range of services potential, especially alluded to by the previous speakers very repeatedly, that the banking sectors are looking for new businesses. And then we are upgrading the applications. And of course, there are multiple industries and sectors. They are in the recovery momentum. And so impressed us most is that we are in the roadmaps towards the very good direction. So we have to come to an end to this panel. Thank you very much. Thank you for the sharing by the panelists and also excellent moderation by our moderator. So